Hello, welcome once again to Lehto's Law. I'm Steve Lehto. I talk about bad cops, bad judges, bad lawyers, and bad car dealers from time to time. And Edward passed along a story to me from Erie, PA about a dealer that's been accused of some bad things by a bank and the feds. According to the headline from GoErie.com, Erie auto dealer defrauded bank of $1.88 million. I think that'll get you in trouble. Story is written by Madeline O'Neill. Newly filed federal indictment details charge against Lakeside auto owner Andy Gabler and the dealership's finance manager. And this sounds eerily like part of the plot of Fargo. Erie auto dealer Andy Gabler used fake documentation to sidestep monthly audits of vehicle sales at his Lakeside auto businesses and to conceal financial problems from his bank. Newly filed court documents allege. The federal government charges that the deception resulted in about $1.88 million in losses to the bank. The scheme led to Gabler's indictment recently on 17 felony counts, including conspiracy, bank fraud, and wire fraud. His initial appearance in U.S. District Court was scheduled for August 26th before U.S. Magistrate Judge Richard A. Lanzillo. The U.S. District Attorney's Office announced the charges Tuesday, but court filings related to the case did not become publicly available until a day or two later. The indictment offers new details about the allegations against the men, the owner of Lakeside Auto Group, and his finance manager, who was also indicted. This is all going on in the Western District of Pennsylvania Federal Court because it involves banks, and banking issues often wind up in federal court. The indictment alleges that the two men conspired to commit fraud between January 2015 and January of 2019. As part of the scheme, the government charges, the two did not inform the lender when Lakeside Auto Dealership sold vehicles that had been purchased using floor plan financing from the bank in an effort to delay and attempt to avoid the dealership's required payment to the bank for the sold vehicles. And for those of you who don't know and didn't see the movie Fargo, dealerships often borrow money from banks to buy their inventory. And then what happens is the inventory on the floor is put up as collateral against the loan. And whenever a vehicle gets sold out of that inventory, they're supposed to report that to the bank so they can pay part of the loan back. And so what happens oftentimes, at least in the movies, is when a bank runs into financial trouble, they'll sell a car and simply not report it as sold yet to the bank and use that money for something else. And if they start doing that too often, they can get upside down to the point where they can't make those sales up or make those payments up, and then they get into trouble. And of course, it's all contrary to the loan documents they have because there is a financing agreement in place for the floor plan inventory financing. So the bank conducted monthly audits to verify vehicle sales at the dealership locations in Harbor Creek Township, Northeast Township, and Girard, according to the indictment. But the two men evaded the audits by using fake buyer's orders with sales dates later than the actual vehicle sales to justify the dealership's late payments to the bank, according to the allegations raised by the government. This practice, also known as selling vehicles, quote-unquote, out of trust, involves failing to use the proceeds from vehicle sales to pay off bank loans as required. Selling vehicles out of trust prevents banks from repossessing the vehicles to recoup their losses because the dealership has already titled the vehicle to the new owner. And again, the collateral for the loan is the vehicles. So when they sell the collateral, they don't tell the bank they've done that, then the bank is losing its ability to collect on the loan. The indictment lists 6 occasions between April of 2016 and December 2017 when the men are accused of submitting fake buyer's orders during the bank audits. The bank is out of Indiana, Pennsylvania, lost about $1.88 million as a result of the scheme the indictment charges. Now, the way this is written, it sounds like there's a place in Pennsylvania called Indiana, Pennsylvania. It says Indiana, Pennsylvania, and I will look that up and get back to you. In July and August 2018, Gabler also submitted auto loan applications and received funding on these loans for extended warranties that the dealership never paid for, according to the indictment. The indictment also accuses the men of selling extended warranties to customers and failing to remit the paperwork, leaving customers unaware they did not possess an extended warranty they had paid for. That's another common scheme. When dealerships sell third-party warranties, a lot of the warranty companies send the paperwork to the dealership and say, when you sell one, send us the money along with the application. And what they'll often do is they'll hang on to the application, spend the money on something else, and tell themselves, oh, we'll pay that later. And then they say, well, if the people never file a claim, they don't need this. So eventually, what happens is that somebody comes in and goes, hey, I filed a claim with my third-party warranty company. And they say you never submitted the application. So Not saying that's what happened here, but that's the allegation. The men are also accused of falsifying loan application documents by indicating that customers had made a down payment toward a vehicle or falsely inflating customers' income. One man has no lawyer listed in public records as of Wednesday. The other one is scheduled to have his initial appearance before Lanzillo. One of the men lost control of the business known as Lakeside Auto Group in January after the bank raised concerns about the dealership's practice of selling vehicles out of trust, and an Erie County judge appointed a receiver to control the businesses at the bank's request. The bank had filed default judgments totaling about $7.8 million against the men, the business, and its affiliates. The bank recouped only about $3.3 million through the receivership, the court records show. The receiver sold off the business's assets, including everything from vehicles to furniture, in an attempt to recover the bank's losses. The dealership's financial troubles became clear after the FBI searched the dealership's 3 locations and one of the men's Harbor Creek residence in late January. So that's a story from Madeline O'Neill at GoErie.com, and a dealership that appears to have been liquidated due to financial issues that may have arisen because they were playing fast and loose with the vehicles in inventory and the financing plan in place to cover them. And like I said, it sounds a lot like part of the plot in Fargo, but did not involve, thankfully, a wood chipper. So it's an issue. And, it's interesting because car dealerships are something I talk about a lot. And it's an interesting business because it appears that some dealerships have a really, really hard time making money and staying afloat. And yet there's other dealerships that make money like they've got a printing press. And it's interesting to me because the same is true of, like, say, bars or restaurants. There are restaurants that have been in business for 30 years. And every time I go in there, I get great service. And the food is fabulous. And the wait staff is wonderful. The same owners have been there for decades. And there's other restaurants that I've seen where every 6 months, the restaurant's out of business, new ownership, out of business, new ownership. And you wonder, like, wait, how can some people do this and other people can't? And the same is true with bars. Watch Bar Rescue sometime. And you realize what the profit margins are in alcohol and you go, wait, how can these people not make money? And then you watch the show and you realize, oh, apparently it's very easy to not make money. But again, with car dealerships in Michigan, where I'm located, I know several names where there's a name, it's often a family name, where they've got several dealerships and they're buying up more dealerships and they're expanding and they're advertising and they're moving cars. And then you see someone like this and you go, what happened here? I don't know. So it's an interesting question, but it happens. And so the bank is allegedly out at least $1.88 million. And there's 2 guys who've been charged with crimes. So we'll see what happens. So if I hear any more about this, I will update you. But otherwise, questions or comments, put them below. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.